Wait, why is there no visuals? Oh, okay, there's a visual. Alright, everybody. How's it going? People are talking about Arcane. I'm not going to watch Arcane because I don't play League of Legends, so I'm not interested. 4:30 when I meant 5:30. What time did I schedule this stream? I scheduled this stream for now. Right? I scheduled this stream for now. I'm 9 minutes late. And you know why I was late? I was helping an old lady cross the street. And if you can't believe that, well then, I don't know what to say. It's not my job to convince you, but that's what I was doing. Yana Bergman says audio only in left ear. Yana, take the other headphone and put that in. You need both headphones in. That's how you'll get max audio. Mic not plugged in all the way? I'm not using a mic right now. 10 minutes late. Early Morge liked the stream. Guys, put your headphones into your left ears. Why is there so much left ear discussion? Ghassan Abanara says, Arcane's a story about class inequality. No, it's not. It's about League of Legends. It's about League of Legends. PD Boy says, Morge fabricates an old lady to save his image. No. She was very old. She barely made it across. I had to carry her. That's why it took so long. Alright, there's some audio issues. How do I fix it? Now, the thing is, if I try to fix it, I might actually make it worse. We don't want that. We could risk it. I could unplug one of these things to put in my mic. I could unplug my Ethernet to plug in my mic, but I don't know if that's the best solution. You know what? We're just going to leave the audio as is for the moment. I hear from both ears, says someone. Christos Nitoro says he hears from both ears, so, you know. Mateo Romero says, hello, everyone. I don't remember how you got mod. Don't remember it at all. Morge for the people. I agree. Morge the gentleman. That's what I want to see. I want to see more of that type of talk. Morge is on mono mode, says M. Byrie. If there's an easy fix, I could try it. But, look, we don't want to try and make this worse than it already is. I think it's just not worth the risk. I don't think it's worth the risk, guys. Just try again tomorrow, says Z Saturn. Nah. Today's the day I stream. Tyson Hoffman says, Morge, how do you think Zoro will defeat King? That's an interesting question. Milo says you still don't have an adapter. I'll get one, Milo. Don't worry about it. I'll get one soon. Jay Sama says, I've never been this early. Same. Voice of the left ear. Okay, so how do I think Zoro defeats King? That's a... Alright, so it's a little tricky because, I mean, in theory, the answer's already there, right? Seems like he's going to code his swords and conquer his Haki. Fire Deer says, Morge, if the audio is wacky, better drop some wisdom in the stream. I mean, yeah, so again, obviously I'll do that, but it seems like Zoro's going to code his blades and conquer his Haki. That seems, like he's doing that, so I don't know how much more complicated it gets. If this is the final fight for Zoro and King, then I would think that Ashura gets broken out during it, because Ashura was the first time that it was referenced that Zoro has Conqueror's Haki within him, so I think that there's an intrinsic tie between Ashura and Conquerors. I don't think that, I'm not going to explain what I think the full choreography of the fight is going to be, but it does look like, if this is Zoro's final battle against King, we already know what the key to beating King is, right? It seems like Zoro's already unlocked that stage. I would like to see the final blow be Ashura because, yeah, that just feels right for this battle. Hans Ding says, remember in Skypiea before Anil came, there was a god that was the equivalent of Lunarian. Also, Luffy's fruit could have been used to combat the moon god, as Enel was able to power up moon. I don't understand that last statement. Luffy's fruit could have been used to combat the moon god, as Enel's fruit was able to power up moon. Enel didn't really power up the moon, though, did he? He traveled to the moon. It could be seen as foreshadowing for the actual god, Enel traveling to the moon at the end of the Skypiea arc could be foreshadowing for the final god figure of the story that they have to fight being from the moon or something along those lines. There's equivalent. That was equivalent of Lunarian. We don't know enough about the previous gods before Enel, though. And honestly, the gods before Enel, like the ones that we saw all the way back in the Nolan Kalgara flashback, that god was not a Lunarian. So we don't know how far back, you have to go in Skypiea history before you get there. St. John says, fix the audio, please. I think I can't this stream. I'm not going to stop the stream and restart it just to do that. So sorry about that, but I don't think that I can do that this stream. Resting in Motion says, if Ohara is right about 3,000 worlds using Conqueror's Haki, do you think that could be the finisher? I don't think 3,000 worlds uses Conqueror's Haki because as far as we know, like, would he bust that out against Pika? I don't think that really makes sense. As far as I can tell, this was the first time that we saw Zoro really using Conqueror's Haki. Like, as far as we know, 3,000 worlds was just the first time that Zoro busted out armament, like black coating. Not armament in general, but at least black coating. And that was supposed to be the reveal of that. So I think that this makes much more sense being actual Conqueror's Haki at this point. I don't think that was a conscious ability that he could do up till now. Chinuel Alibatia says, can Zoro touch him without touching? I mean, maybe that's the secret to defeating King. Maybe any damage that actually hits him physically, is absorbed, or I've seen some people say that it gets transferred into fire. So energy transfer, something along those lines. That might be a Lunarian ability. So therefore, touching without actually physically touching might be the secret. I think that's an interesting idea. Bobert Smith says, I saw a theory that Lunarians are just elementals and the body is just a puppet, so Zoro learning to cut fire could use that to kill King. Thoughts? That is an interesting idea for sure. I think the one thing I would say to that, though, is that, and it would maybe... We need to know a little bit more about King, I suppose, obviously, but the one thing with that is that Zoro learning to cut fire was kind of a casual skill that he learned off-screen, and he's already displayed it against Kaido. I think it'd be much more interesting if it's related to the Conqueror's Haki that he developed. So I like the idea that somebody else just mentioned that maybe it involves not physically contacting the opponent, as that would allow Conqueror's Haki to be really important in this. J Full says, love you, Morge. I really appreciate it, J Full. Atras says, what are your thoughts on the theory that King is former warden of Impel Down? I really, really, really like that theory, because I just like it when different things in the One Piece world happen to connect back. It makes the world feel, a little richer, a little more alive, just getting more info on, like, okay, what's the history of Impel Down? Like, it's interesting that even just this prison in One Piece, if we find out more and more aspects of it, we now know, okay, so Blackbeard, his first mate was from Impel Down. We now know, that the Beast Pirate's first mate, he was actually a former warden of Impel Down, perhaps before Magellan or Shiryu. Well, Shiryu was head Gowler, right? Not actually warden. But I just like the idea that certain things, they just neatly connect in the One Piece world, and you can kind of trace back a history through, different organizations to connect to other organizations, and just, I don't know, it makes the world... Wait, what happened? What happened? Joe Armando says he's gonna be late. Well, guess what? It is 6:54 my time, 7:54 I suppose most people's time. And I'm not late. I'm perfectly on time. In fact, I'm early. And the audio's better, right? The part here says, Super Chat from Zagar Verk. Hey Morge, Zoro's literally fighting a better Sanji. King has durability like him, used the Diablo Jambe. I don't know why no one talked about it in reviews. That is an interesting idea, Cigar. I guess because, you don't want to feed into the Zoro-Sanji toxicity too much. So it's best not... I think everyone knows that King is stronger than Sanji, right? We don't really need to discuss that. But I guess you're right that King is a bit of a stronger Sanji in a sense. Uses fire, high durability, etc. Audio is kind of fixed, says St. John. I don't know what that means. Sounds like mostly fixed to me. Put earbuds on mono, says Nolan Holiday. I don't have to wear earbuds. You guys have to wear earbuds. I don't have to put my earbuds on anything. OB001 says you're still late in our hearts. I appreciate it. Alright, so 300 viewers. Even though I think I left off at about 717-ish viewers. I don't know why I said 717-ish. That's like a really specific amount. 700-ish viewers, right? And 77% of you said you'd be right back. And I'm not that great at math, but I know that this is not 77%. I know it's not 77%. I could figure that out. So 77% of you, no, some percent of you lied to me. That's all I know. Oh, okay, people are creeping back in. People are coming back in. Left ear is louder than right ear, says Boofenstein. Well, last time you guys told me you couldn't hear out of the left ear, so now I don't know what to believe. I'm just going to believe that the audio is perfect. Zach Reese says it was actually 771. Then yeah, then you know what? We're way off our mark. I've Good Taste says we the real ones. I agree. Darth Pumpkin says, if the live-action One Piece director contacted you to play Gaimon, would you? No, I would direct him to JD Legend, who has basically... I almost want to believe that Oda based the character Gaimon off of JD. I think Oda had future sight and realized... Or maybe JD's just really, really old, who knows, but... I think Oda saw him in some sort of a vision and realized he wanted to base a character off of him. Udana Uchibu... I actually have some thoughts on the One Piece live-action. Revised thoughts after seeing a bit more of Cowboy. So, we'll talk about that in a second. Udana Uchegbu says, hey Morge, do you think Breath of All Things is related to Haki? Why or why not? I do actually think that. I would love it if it isn't, because I also... So I'm cool with it if it is or it isn't. At the moment, I think it is. I'll explain that in a second. I would still like... First, let me say I would like it if it's not, because I think it would make for a really cool matchup for Zoro versus Shiryu down the line. If, for example, let's say Shiryu maybe awakened, you know, if the clear fruit, if he awakens that or something, maybe that allows him to be invisible even to Haki. I think that would be a great ability if Shiryu's able to do that. I would love it if that becomes a thing, and then the only way Zoro is able to detect him is through the not the Voice of All Things, other thing, Breath of All Things. Very similar but different. I think that would be, you know, a really cool way to bring that back into the story. If it's something distinct from Haki, where even if Shiryu is able to hide from observation Haki, the Breath of All Things allows Zoro to catch him. Now, while I think that would be cool, I'm more inclined to believe that Zoro used Breath of All Things as observation Haki. Reason being, now in retrospect, many things that Zoro did in his fights against Mr. One and against Kaku seem to be, hinted to have been, early uses of Haki, right? Because one of the things that, you know, let's start with cutting steel, right? When Hyogoro explains how Ryo is referred to in Wano, right? He goes in depth into it and basically specifically uses the example of, you know, this is an ability that would allow a swordsman to even cut steel. And in the moment that Zoro cut steel, we know that he tapped into something special. At the time, we thought it was just high swordsmanship skill. Now it sounds more so as though it's retroactively being framed as perhaps an early use of armament Haki, right? Similarly, Conqueror's Haki. Zoro using Conqueror's Haki against Kaido was the moment that Kaido realized that Zoro using Ashura against Kaido was the moment that Kaido realized that Zoro has Conqueror's Haki. So clearly something about that move made Kaido aware that this is related to Conqueror's Haki in a way, which leads me to believe that Ashura, which to date was Zoro's most unexplained ability and the most unexplained ability in the entirety of One Piece, that leads me to believe that Ashura is being retroactively framed as an early use of Conqueror's Haki unknowingly by Zoro, okay? So that fine, so, you know, if these things are kind of retroactively being framed in certain ways, okay, like cutting steel, that technique may have been related to Ryo, armament Haki, the way Hyogoro talks about it, Ashura against Kaku being framed as perhaps, you know, an early use of Conqueror's Haki, that being the base of the technique. To me, it stands to reason that the final mysterious ability that Zoro used pre-time skip being the Breath of All Things, that very possibly was just early observation Haki. It just seems to follow that trend, so my more logical guess, I guess, would be that, yeah, that is just an early use of observation Haki, but what I would love for it to be is something different, as maybe that can come into play against Shiryu down the line. Woodstock? S-T-A-X-C-K. What do you think of Kuina being sacrificed by Kairo and Kozuboru so that Zoro would get the Wado? I guess you mean Koshiro and Kozubaru, so that Zoro would get the Wado. I don't think Kuina was sacrificed, but I did see something really interesting on Twitter. Really interesting on Twitter the other day, which was, maybe it was even today, that perhaps Kuina, following what Kozubaru said about, you know, not being worthy of certain swords, leading to the idea of curses, etc., cursed swords. What if Kuina was not worthy of Wado Ichimonji, which would then make more sense for why she ultimately died at such an early age for no reason? I don't think that makes that much sense, as, you know, Kuina was basically a sword prodigy in her own right. She had all the talent of Zoro, right? She was obviously a little bit older, but still she was able to beat Zoro. I think consistently is an understatement. When you beat someone 2001 times, I don't think consistently applies anymore. She was 100% absolutely better than Zoro, right? Obviously, again, she was a little bit older, and she seemed to believe that because she was a woman, over time she would not be able to keep up with him. But, you know, in terms of her skill and talent as a swordsman woman or whatever, it doesn't make sense to me that she wouldn't be worthy of Wado Ichimonji, but then Zoro just randomly would be. So, I think it's interesting, the idea that maybe this plays into why Kuina ended up dying, and it actually makes more sense in the context of One Piece if it was, you know, a swordsman not being worthy of a particular sword, but at the same time, I don't think it makes sense for Kuina's character for that to be the case. So, you know, it's an interesting possibility to think about. I can't reconcile it with, like, Kuina's actual abilities, though. Behenort says, I like to joke that the Straughts are Antifa, but if we're serious, are Arlong and Horty the only textbook examples of fascism in One Piece? No. No, right? Like, why are those... Because Horty never succeeded, but he would have instituted something very similar. No, you're right, because Doflamingo, it was not overt. Wapple, I think Wapple is close. Wapple. I would throw Wapple in there. I would throw... lots of these types are not overt. I think NL maybe applies. NL's weird, though. I think NL applies. It's just like a whole nother level with NL. I'd have to think on it a little more, but I think those are the two standouts that would also fall in there. Darth Pumpkin says, so what are you saying? What you're saying is you would rather play Whitebeard. Yeah, if I was offered the job of Whitebeard, I would love it. Yeah, I'd have to work out a bunch, though. Grow a giant mustache. Whitebeard... Oh no. Oh no. Jay's in the chat. No. Listen, Jay, I just follow what the internet tells me, and they told me that you were born to play Gaimon. That's all I gotta say. Also, I saw a drawing that Dritz made that I can't forget about ever. It's actually kind of crazy that Dritz probably took like a solid hour of his time to draw that. I know that Dritz didn't just draw that up in 5 minutes. He's not that type of artist. I know he probably took like an hour to do that. Thomas Kaz says, Usopp getting Mjolnir is greater than the raid failing theory. No, the raid failing, there's nothing greater than the raid failing theory. But Usopp getting Mjolnir, you know, if Mjolnir exists, sure. I think that'd be really cool. Aslan says, Zoro in the One Piece live action. Oh yeah, let me talk a little bit about the One Piece live action. I've had a bit of a change of heart on the One Piece live action. I think I put out a video bit saying to be positive about it. And, you know, I watched the first 30 minutes of the first episode of Cowboy Bebop, and I was like, you know, it's not good, but if someone's never seen the anime before, then they could maybe enjoy the show as, like, a corny, cheesy, weird, campy, but, like, kind of quirky and fun sort of series, alright? That I could see that. But then I ended up I didn't watch any more episodes, but I saw clips and found out what they did with Spike, Vicious, and Julia, and how they ended the season. And once I found that stuff out, I was just like... Then I understood more of the rage towards the series, towards the live-action series, because it's actually insane how they botched it. You know? And it's not purely from an anime adaptation standpoint, okay? Because, like, I'm trying to separate the anime from the show, because it's fine if the show does things differently, because that's not... You can't judge it based on how perfectly it adapts the anime, okay? It's trying to be its own thing. That's fine. But when I say botched it, I'm just like, what? It's just the stupidest... Like, I watched the scene, I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever. And then they try to play Ballad of Fallen Angel. Like, you can't just try and pull the good stuff of the show while ruining the stuff that made it really good. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just have that scene, the song playing, the music, following through, etc., while you fuck up the beginning, like the first part of it that actually sets the stage for that having meaning. Like, I literally don't understand how they... Like, once I saw that, I was like, no, they really, really, really ruined it. I get it. The hate for the series is probably warranted. Like, I was kind of defending it last stream. I was like, yeah, I didn't think it was as bad as people thought. I watched 30 minutes of it. I think it's a bad adaptation, but it's like okay in its own right. Just like a weird, again, corny, cheesy, weirdly directed. But again, like it can, you can see how it could be fun for someone who's never seen the anime before to like come across the series and give it a try. But now that I saw the ending, I'm just like, whoa, no, they have literally no idea what they're doing. It's kind of crazy. I think you could. I know it's bad when I can say that you could give it to a random person who watched the anime and know that they wouldn't mess it up like that, right? Because that means you found a writer or showrunner who's below the average fan in terms of competence, which is crazy. Aslan, so to respond to what you were saying, says, Zoro in the One Piece live action should not have three-sword style. Maybe two at most, but if you've seen some clips of the actor, it wouldn't make sense. The three-sword style is so iconic, I feel like you kind of gotta, though. I get what you're saying. It's also funny because your profile picture is Zoro with three swords. I mean, technically the scythe in his mouth. But, you know, I don't know. I think you kind of just gotta do it. Hold on, one sec. Let me catch up on these chats. One sec. Oh, did JD leave? Jay got mad? Jay says Morge would be Condoriano? Because he's mad at me now? I don't want to be Condoriano. I don't even like Condoriano that much. No, I do like Condoriano. I like Condoriano. Halil says, do you think Oda expected the readers to care more about Momo and the Scabbards at this point than they actually do? They're not exactly popular. I care about Momo. I actually like Momo quite a bit. Momo is... I don't know why people don't like Momo. I mean, I kind of get it, but... you know, I like Momo quite a bit, actually. I like Kinemon a decent amount. Kaido and Momo are my favorite characters out of Wano. And, I don't know. I'm a little surprised. I get why people don't like Momo. But I've grown to like him. As for the Scabbards, look, here's the thing. I don't think that... It's tricky because Oda once said something like, I don't write crying scenes unless I'm crying. So Oda saying, unless I myself cry, I don't write crying scenes. If that's the case, then Oda's gone off the rails because the Scabbards cry every chapter. That's an exaggeration, obviously, but I swear they had a run of like several chapters where they would just cry like every... They're really upset about Odin. Let me say that. They're upset about Odin. They like to cry about Odin a lot. I think around the Scabbards, if you mention Odin, if there's like a speech bubble that has the word Odin in it, and there's a Scabbard in the panel, the Scabbard is probably going to be crying. So that does make me question things, because I'm like, does Oda cry every time a Scabbard reacts to the word Odin? If that's the case, then yeah, maybe Oda's wildly overestimated how compelling the Scabbard stories are. However, the thing about the Scabbards that I always used to mentally justify them, I think they make a lot of sense. If they're not really supposed to be... the Scabbards, the reason the Scabbards in the Odin story exists, the only reason it exists that makes sense is if it is meant to parallel the story of Luffy and the Straw Hats, and if it's meant to set up something for Luffy and the Straw Hats, okay? There needs to be some sort of thematic through line between the story of Odin and the Scabbards and Luffy and the Straw Hats. So that is why Oda put so much time into crafting the story of a leader and his 9 followers. It's supposed to set up for something for Luffy and the Straw Hats. We're supposed to take away from the Scabbard story something about Luffy and his crew story, okay? Whatever that thing is yet, it has not become clear yet, alright? I think it'll make more sense. I mean, again, I'm all for the raid failing. I think that would be perfect if the Straw Hats are put into a similar situation as the Scabbards were, but this time, you know, because they're the fucking Straw Hats and they're not the Scabbards, they were actually able to succeed where the Scabbards failed, right? Scabbards' biggest failure was that, in their own words that they've reiterated multiple times, they were not able to be of as much use to Odin as they would have liked. If things go down for the Scabbards in a certain way that then frame it such that the Straw Hats, you know, they are kind of following not a mirrored footsteps or whatever of what the Scabbard story were, but they're able to rise to a certain occasion in a way that the Scabbards could not. I think that then justifies the Scabbards being in the story. Maybe they were a little clunky and made things a little bloated for a while, but I could see it turning out to be a really great story for the Straw Hats. If you have that added foundation of hearing about the story of this failed group of followers first, before getting to see the Straw Hats shine in a certain way. Now, that still has to come through, right? So this arc has to be more important for the Straw Hats than any other arc previously. As it is right now, this arc has probably gotten the least Straw Hat focus out of any major arc in One Piece history. So I think some things are going to have to change, but, we'll have to see. Justin Holland says Marine Ford this year. Yes, Marine Ford, the release date is December 21st. JD's calling me a snake, but I'm so far behind on chat, I don't even know what he's referring to. Era says, Hi Morge, I just wanted to get your opinion on why King seems invulnerable at the moment. I was thinking that King, as a Lunarian, is able to adapt to the kind of damage his opponent does. So I saw an interesting theory, I think maybe on Twitter, that it was something along the lines of... like King is able to transfer his damage into something into flames. So like if something hits him, then it comes out as flames. Zoro hit him, it became a combustion, he exploded and such. So that's an interesting idea. And I think, something that somebody added on in today's chat, for example, that made me think was like Conqueror's Haki. If Zoro's able to coat his blades in Conqueror's Haki, then he could attack King without physically touching him, which would circumvent that ability of King's. I think that that's a cool possibility. But there's also the other possibility, which is that King's just a fucking tank, and he can take a ridiculous amount of damage. Uduna Echegbu says, I love how King was clowning on Zoro this chapter. Yes, I really like this chapter quite a bit. It was... Who's flexed on Zoro like that? Like, Zoro's tried to attack him multiple times with his best moves, and King's just, opened himself up to be hit by them. Corey Henderson, his message was deleted by Anuj Agarwal. Who knows how scandalous that message was? What could he been trying to say to me? Now I want to know. I wish the message wasn't deleted. Question mark, ask Luffy and Zoro relative, question mark. Dude, I don't even know I don't get it. I don't know what the question is. Sorry about that. Oh wait, I scrolled past a couple comments. Hold on. Myron12 says, Hi Morge, have you seen Arcane, question mark. Thought it was unironically a great series throughout despite having never played League. I might give Arcane a try. I've mentioned this before. I don't like trying new series that much these days because, it's such a time investment. So many people are saying such good things about Arcane. I was kind of like this with Invincible too, where so many people were saying such good things about Invincible. I was like, I'm not going to try that. And then I eventually did. And I was like, yeah, it was really, really good. So with Arcane, it feels like it's kind of going the same way. I'm seeing a lot of people talk about it. It has not yet reached the popularity of Invincible, because I couldn't go through the timeline without seeing fucking Omni-Man memes. You still can't go through the timeline without seeing Omni-Man memes. I mean, it's easy to see why. It's a very memeable show, but, Arcane, it's clearly popular. People say it's really good, but it's enough still not in my face at the moment that I can ignore it, I just don't want to give it a try. I'm sure it's good. Because so many people have said it's good. So many people have said it's really special. I just don't want to give it a try, so I'd rather not. If enough people talk about it, then maybe I will. Yamil Diaz says, if Usopp gets Mjolnir, then would Nami get Gungnir? So now we're getting deep into Norse mythology. Let's at least first let Mjolnir become a thing that exists in the One Piece story, We don't have to go down this rabbit hole of alright, who's getting every single Norse magic weapon in history, Potential Pizza says Kinemon is the one I really like. I agree. Out of the Scabbards, I really like Kinemon. JD Legend says samurai are not supposed to cry in the first place. JD Legend imposing toxic masculinity on those Scabbards. Question mark, again, ask Luffy and Zoro relative, question mark. If you're asking if they're relatives, no, I don't think they're relatives. Anuj Agarwal pointing out a super chat from Corey Henderson. He says, do you think Kaido will go into hybrid form, then have some kind of genetic Oni transformation that truly solidifies his case for being the world's strongest? I think Kaido's going to awaken, but I don't know if he's going to have some sort of genetic Oni transformation. I think that, awakening is the thing that I think would be the next step for Kaido to show off. Usopp the Liar says, do you think that Usopp will eat Kanjo's devil fruit? So that's a theory I've been seeing people talk about recently. I get it, Usopp, his creativity in battle, like, one, he's a really good artist, and two, creativity in battle is basically Usopp's forte, and that devil fruit really lends itself to that. I would still rather not, because I like the idea of Usopp kind of, he's this underdog figure, right? Him getting, Kanjura's fruit is undeniably a really, really, really powerful fruit. It's one of potentially the strongest fruits in the series, in my opinion, or at least by far the most versatile fruit in the series. I would rather Usopp have to, I like the idea that Usopp's this everyman. Him getting a devil fruit, which is basically like a sacred power, it's taken for granted nowadays that so many people have devil fruits, but at the same time, a devil fruit's, it's still technically a big deal, right? You're no longer just a normal guy once you have a devil fruit. Okay? I like the idea of Usopp being this everyman. I like him developing natural organic abilities such as observation haki. And I like the idea that, even the special abilities he does have. I don't love the plant fighting style, but I feel like, actually I really don't like the plant fighting style that much, but I do feel like it fits him in that it's not an overtly powerful ability. You look at Nami's power set, Nami's got a she is also a normal everyday person who has to rely on wits a lot in battle, but Oda does kind of overcompensate a little bit by giving her really ridiculous broken powers. She has the power of, an emperor's, an emperor's ultimate weapons, at her disposal, and now it's a homing weapon for her, right? Usopp, I like the idea that he doesn't have inherently that powerful abilities. So I prefer the idea of Usopp, of all characters, never getting a devil fruit. But I don't think it's unlikely. I'm saying my preference. I think it's entirely possible. I think, to me, it would go a little bit against what I like about his character and what I think his character represents in the series. Aslan says, what's the Shanks movie going to be about? Film Red. Great question. As far as I know, Film Red is not canon. So, that means that they can be... I like to think that it's about Shanks, maybe his rise to Emperor, but a fictional sort of tale of it. So, creating things like... I wouldn't be surprised if they made up some great pirate for Shanks to have to defeat on his rise. They could even call him, the Yonko before Shanks, right? So they could be let's call this guy, I don't know, just Pirate X, okay? So they could be back in the day it was Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, and Pirate X, and then Shanks had to rise up and beat that guy, and then he became an emperor. They can kind of make up whatever. I like to think it's about his rise during that time, because doing it like that, we really don't know that much about the 20-year period between... We know quite a bit about the, at this point about Roger's era. We know quite a bit about that. And especially, the years surrounding, Roger's voyage, Odin's little story, etc. We don't know a lot about the middle part, the middle storyline. So the rise of pirates like Shanks, like Mihawk, a lot of the Shichibukai, etc. I think they could easily set a story in that timeline because a lot is open to interpretation or making things up. And on top of that, it doesn't really conflict canonically with a lot of what's going on in the current world. So I think it's very simple. You can write a story for Shanks, his made-up tale of becoming emperor. Keenan says, shouts to Morge never getting credit when his theories are true. Oh, thank you. Big Mom going to Wano sold me 2 years ago on Adult Momo. Conquerors being the key to defeating Kaido, Zoro getting in Wano, Sanji got durability and not observation buff, etc. Look, here's the thing. So when Big Mom ended up going to Wano, I actually did get a lot of credit. It's just I was such a small YouTuber at that time that it wasn't widespread. It was just people who followed me at that time. They were really excited about it. And for a long period of time following that, I'd say the next 2 years following that, I was really pushed by a lot of people as Morge's theories are really good, etc. Okay? Then, what's changed my reputation? The raid failing stuff. Ever since I started pushing the raid failing stuff, suddenly everything, at least, and it's understandable, so I'm not trying to complain about it. Wait, no, I guess I am. But it's understandable, I obviously don't like it, but because I'm most well known for that, right, that the raid's gonna fail, and that's this overarching broad belief that I have, suddenly for most people who are not my normal viewers, that becomes the main thing that stands out. So, I see it a lot in some comments from people, that don't normally watch me, which is Morge, isn't that guy that thinks the raid's gonna fail, etc. And people do say stuff like, Morge gets stuff right sometimes, but he still thinks that the raid's gonna fail. So it's kind of cast a shadow over a lot of stuff. Because I think, objectively speaking, I mean, you just listed it. In the last, 30 chapters, last, 30, 25 chapters, I've gotten two very major theories correct, which is Conqueror's Haki was the key to defeating Kaido. That's, what this arc is about. And people forget, but, the entirety of Wano, most people were talking about armament haki. That was the mantra for pretty much every, person on Twitter, every YouTube content creator, etc. Everyone's just talking about armament haki, Rio, this arc's about Rio. Most people were saying Elbaf, that'll be the arc that's about Conqueror's Haki, when I'm like, that makes no fucking sense. I was preaching Conqueror's Haki the entire time. Chapter 1010 comes around, I was proven right about that. And people did, give me props for that. I'm not going to pretend they didn't. It's just that, the raid failing thing, that puts a shadow over everything. So it's Morge got this right, then the adult Momonosuke thing right, which I think is a pretty wild prediction to get right. I think that's a pretty good one. But that's not going to make as many waves when it's in the context of Morge still believes that the raid's going to fail. Because it's well, he got these things right despite believing that other thing. So I understand the mentality of people, but I don't like it. Because I'm if I wasn't saying that the raid was going to fail, then people would probably talk me up a lot more in terms of those theories that I got correct. But because I believe this other thing, then people are less willing to give me credit for the things that the major things that I do get right. One sec, let me scroll back up, because that was a bit of a long thing. JD says I promote men crying, it was all lies. Fuck, how many super chats have I missed? Hold on. I'm gonna have to open up that other tab. Keenan says, high as shit off post-surgery perks. What the? Keenan, get out of the street. Rest up. When did Sanji stop needing to spin for Diablo Jambe? Somewhere after the time skip. I liked it better when Oda made it seem like Sanji got the inspiration from Wanzi's skates going by the panels. I think it was time skip. I mean, against Judge, we even saw Sanji just be we never actually really got to see it. Sanji used Diablo Janbe, then he said something else on top of that, Poel Friere or something along those lines. I probably totally butchered that. But he said some stuff, and then his leg just got brighter. I guess it's along the lines of, Luffy suddenly being able to use Gear Second just on a whim, not much, action required on his part or anything like that. He can even make certain parts of his bodies activate. So it is the way it is. I like it that, I like that Oda used to have Sanji do that, and it also made more sense as it was friction, but now that Oda's kind of going the other route that, no, it's just a genetic ability that Sanji can turn himself on fire, I think it's fine that he's taking out the friction thing, out of the equation. Let me pull up the Super Chat tab so I can catch up on some of these. Behenort says, what I meant was Arlong and Horty are the only ultra-nationalists, which is essential to being a fascist. Sorry for the confusion. Well, I didn't know that was essential to being a fascist. Even though I took government and politics for 4 years, I learned nothing and retained no information from that. So, in that case, yeah. Right? They're the only ones that are extremely dug into, essentially, right? Well, is it even national? Yeah, I guess just Fishman supremacy, right? That plays into ultranationalism. Horty in particular, that makes sense. Then yeah, I would agree. I think you're right on that. Pat Galley. I don't know why I said Fat Galley. Just failed the shit out of my circuits exam. What's up, Morge? What is wrong with you guys? Who's in this chat right now? The previous super chat was from Keenan, who's high as shit off post-surgery perks. Then Pat Galley comes in with just failed the shit out of my circuits exam. Is this where, people go when they're, really fucked up? They just come into a Morge stream? What's up, Morge? Are you caught up in One Punch Man manga? The past chapter was heat. The past chapter of One Punch Man. I'm not even, a big One Punch Man fan. It's just that, the previous chapter they'd been hyping up, Golden Sperm, his next transformation and such, right? So I was I gotta read this. Then we got Platinum Sperm. Oh, wait, fuck, I'm spoiling this shit. Nah, it's One Punch Man. Who cares about One Punch Man spoilers? I'll just say this most recent chapter. I'll just give the general gist. I thought that King was going to do something this chapter. What happened was a million times better. This One Punch Man chapter, I would actually recommend going and reading it even if you don't follow One Punch Man. Because the artist, Murata, did something really, really creative, in my opinion. Something really, really, really creative for a particular entrance that you don't see in... Yeah, I've never seen an entrance like that in a manga before in general. Really, really creative. Very, very impactful, and I think it's impactful even if you don't read the series. So I'd suggest go checking out the recent chapter. Darth Pumpkin says, do you think the Straw Hats will get an item that has eaten a devil fruit? What if the Sunny ate a fruit? Would it sink lol? The Sunny eating a fruit is hilarious. I personally don't think that the Straw Hats will get an item that has eaten a devil fruit. If the Sunny ate a fruit, it should sink. But I don't think that they'll get an item with that. I would love for, like, say, Shiryu to get a sword. Or for his sword to eat a devil fruit. So an enemy or something like that. Yamil Diaz says, who's the better artist, Usopp or Carrot? Isn't it Carrot? Because Usopp has a good, he's a good artist. But Carrot drew some, like, beautiful stylized work, right? She's like a pro. Usopp's just like a really good artist. Gassan Abunara says, what do you think are Oda's plans for Denjiro? He's the Scabbard that has had the least focus recently. I think he might help Hiyori. I'm with you on thinking he helps Hiyori because so far, Denjiro and Hiyori, they were kind of the two that are tied together for a long period of time. Technically Kawamatsu and Hiyori, but for the most part that we knew them, Denjiro and Hiyori. And Denjiro and Orochi was the closest dynamic that we ever had between a Scabbard and Orochi, right? Denjiro was Orochi's, dog for a long period of time. Denjiro and Orochi, Hiyori and Orochi, that was the scene that came into play partway through Act 2 of Wano, right? The Shogun Palace storyline. We had Denjiro pretending to kill Hiyori. We had a lot of interactions between Denjiro and Orochi, Orochi and Hiyori, Hiyori and Denjiro, etc. I think that triangle of characters is important. I think that Denjiro will be involved at the very least. John Ross says, Morge, he can paint his lies into reality. That'd be hilarious, but that's one of the reasons I think it's a little too broke for Usopp, in my opinion. I would rather he not get that ability. I would rather he have to continue succeeding, just by being the underdog and having to find a way with the very limited tools that Usopp has. I think I like the fact that Usopp has very limited tools in a world of monsters. Trevor Roberts says, do you think Haki is overused in the series? I actually used to think that coming out of the time skip. I think coming out of the time skip for a good section of time, I did not like the fact that it just felt like Haki was so ubiquitous. Everybody had Haki, everyone had black coding, you just saw it. Like, it's hard to explain, but now it's kind of just been around for so long, I don't think twice about it. I just don't. It's just standard. So maybe it just took a while getting used to. I don't mind Haki being that big of a deal at this point. And I think it fits I think in particular the importance of Conqueror's Haki fits the story quite well, because this is a story about... Conqueror's Haki is kind of like the story of what, like, the spirit of the story of One Piece distilled. This entire series is a rise to be the King of Kings. So that sort of strength of spirit being weaponized in this series, and kind of the strength of your drive to be above everybody else, to stand above, I think that's very, very fitting for the story. I wouldn't say that I think it's like there's too much fit or anything like that anymore. I think if Oda starts getting a little too lax, I suppose, with who has advanced... like, people were already complaining about, like, too many Conqueror's Haki users in general, right? If Oda starts getting really lax with how many advanced Conqueror's Haki users there are, then I think that could, like, further diminish it, I suppose. But right now, I think the select characters that Oda's had show advanced Conqueror's Haki has been... It makes sense to me so far. Hans Ding says, the true villain of One Piece is USA. NL is US for colonization. Kaido is US for forced opening of Japan and propping up a puppet. Crocodile is US for meddling in the Middle East and framing a local leader. I'm just not even going to respond to that. I get what you're saying. But the thing is that, like, other countries have done similar things historically. I guess you could just say that, like, every bad thing that the US has done, you can find some group in One Piece that has done a bad thing that the US has done. But it's like, you can also do that for a lot of other countries if you wanted to. Nandu V says, along with what you've said, it's funny that people don't think the villain set up to like breaking wills won't break Luffy's along with the Alliance. Raid fail. Look, if the raid fails, if the raid fails, I'll be going on some very, very long rants. If it doesn't fail, then, I'll be apologizing for misleading the people, I suppose. I'm prepared for it either way, I think. I mean, look, it's tricky because, like, the villain's set up to like breaking wills. It's just the fact that this is the least tested Luffy has ever been. So to me, it's like, even if the raid doesn't fail, we should get certain scenes, right? Like, Luffy's will, it was tested a million times more in Whole Cake Island than it was so far in any interaction with Kaido. So no matter what, there's still certain things that I feel like we need to see happen over the course of this arc for it to feel like this arc at least lived up to what it itself has been preaching as the important ideas of the arc, But at the same time, I still think that the the arc can still be good. I don't want to start pushing the idea that the arc can't be good unless the raid fails. I still think that the arc can be good because I think the last few chapters, Zoro and Sanji, have been really good chapters, even if the raid doesn't fail. Okay, I'm just saying that there's certain things that I would still like to see that make the most sense considering the raid would fail. Cassie says, could the raid succeed, but our protagonists also lose? Onigashima stopped, Beast Pirates defeated, but Kaido and King survive, Yamato dies. I just think that that's like a very messy sort of like, it doesn't give you anything, really, if that makes sense. Like, Oda generally likes things to be like max cathartic feelings, so like the Beast Pirates all defeated, but then like Kaido and King not defeated. It's just not his style of storytelling, and I don't think a lot of us would even like it because it would just feel like it would feel like a mix between victory and defeat. It just would feel weird, and then it's like this lingering task of, okay, now we have to beat King and Kaido, and it's not very climactic either way. And Oda's a very, he likes writing to very powerful climactic crescendos. That's his greatest strength. One of his greatest strengths, in my opinion. Emil Diaz says, Kuma's power fruit should go to Carrot. She uses open hand claw weapons, and she's sometimes drawn with paws. It'll help her when she becomes a Nakama. But Kuma would have to die in that case, and like, I just don't know. Like, Carrot getting that ability, that's a pretty broke ability. I don't know about that. I don't know if Kuma's going to die either, because I think, we still need all of the interaction between him and the Revolutionary Army. I think it's more likely that he regains his memories or something like that than dies, so I don't know. Chris Roshan says, after Kaido's defeated, and the Strats end up fighting the world government with no help from new players, then they end up escaping, then only person who can explain about Odin's journal is Yamato. You wrote this terribly. Hold on, Krish. You wrote this terribly. Let me try and decipher this, okay? After Kaido is defeated, and the Strats end up fighting the world government, with no help from new players, then they end up escaping. Then the only person who can explain about Odin's journal is Yamato, so she ends up joining the Strats. The thing is that, I don't think that they would need the information from Odin's journal, because the idea is that they travel to the end of the Grand Line, and they find out the information, or they travel to Laugh-Tale, and they find out the information from Odin's journal themselves. So Yamato having Odin's journal, I think that causes problems on its own, that she knows too much knowledge. Phantom SSJ says, hey Morge, it's possible that the raid fails on Christmas. How's that for a gift? Thank you, Phantom, but I don't think that the raid will fail on Christmas. I think that's a few things. I think, like, no matter what, in my opinion, we still need the Kaido flashback. I think if Oda is going to have a turning point, and I've mentioned this a few times before, but I think if Oda is going to have a turning point, I think it would be Luffy doing well against Kaido having a flashback, and then things reversing. That's very similar to how things went with Big Mom, where they're doing really well during the Tea Party. Their plan, their raid at the time is going very, very well. They seem to have Big Mom on the ropes. They're about to take her down. Then her flashback begins. That's when Oda goes into delving into who Big Mom really is, why she's more of a threat than we could have possibly imagined, what makes her an Emperor of the Seas, makes us realize that we've been underestimating her. And then he starts to reveal just how terrifying Big Mom is by having her flip the tables, make us realize that really they had no chance of defeating Big Mom, and they were overly optimistic in their belief that they could do that. I think that something very similar could happen with Kaido, just on a much more devastating scale. One sec, guys. Let me catch up. DB12 says Grumpy Mr. Grumpy Morge has a period. Thanks, man. Hold on, guys. Aslan says, did you see the picture of all the Yonko all at 100%? Shanks' sword is leaking black lightning, and Kaido is in hybrid, and BB has some black tornado. Is that an official photo, artwork that came out? I would love to see that if it's an official artwork. I don't know what you're referencing right here, but I would really love to see this image. All the Yonko all at 100%. I don't know what you're talking about. Chinho Wong says, YouTube hiding the dislike sucks. I agree, Chinho. I actually made a video on that very subject. I'm so mad that video didn't get more traction, because I hate the fact that YouTube removed dislikes so much. I can't go into it. It legitimately makes me really, really angry. I can't go into it. This whole stream would just turn into that. The Pirate Hero says, from Darth Pumpkins, when the raid fails, will we get a new Morgecast? Yes. It's so long away that I guess I can just promise that and not have to worry about it. Yes. We'll get a new Morgecast once the raid fails. Guaranteed. Miss Super Chat from Joe Armando. Morge, you can get casted for Condoriano. No, why would I be Condoriano? Why would I be Condoriano? If they casted me in the One Piece live action, I would like to be, I guess, Jinbei, because he's Indian. The only Indian representation in One Piece. Super Gamification says, just saying thanks. Just saying thanks, Morge. Oh, thank you, Super Gamification. I appreciate that. Content is awesome as always. I appreciate that very much. Cigar Verk says, personally, I want Raid to succeed after all these long setups, power-ups, but why the F will you need to apologize to have an opinion? No, not like, oh, I'm sorry, I did something really evil, but more I guess apologize more I was wrong. You gotta, I can't just sweep it under the rug. I have to do a whole thing of it, be yeah, I was wrong, etc., etc. Here's why I thought it, blah, 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 blah. But this is what actually happened. Here's my thoughts on what actually happened, blah, blah, blah. But thanks for the thoughts. But don't worry, the raid will fail. So it doesn't really matter. AGMC says, you're a perfect Don Chinjao. Guys, stop casting me as things that I would never be. You all know I'd be nothing less than the absolute tippy top tier best of the best. They'd be thinking about me for Shanks. Maybe a Shanks. Maybe a Kainu. One of those type of characters. But again, I'll accept Jinbei because Jinbei is Indian, and I'll be the Indian representation that the live action series will need. Multi2 Terminator says, do you think somebody could forget or be unable to use Haki when they were previously able to use it? I would love it if Luffy lost his ability to use Conqueror's Haki for a period of time. If his will was affected in a certain way. I would love that. Now, do I think that that's a thing that can happen in the series? Yes. Yeah, I definitely do. People have a lot of theories that Whitebeard couldn't use. It's close to confirmed, right? Whitebeard could not use Conqueror's Haki during Marineford. He was unable to kind of break it out. So I think that's definitely possible. Thomas Kaz says, I've been wanting Usopp's Kabuto to eat a zone devil fruit. No, I just don't want Usopp to have devil fruit power behind him. I like the idea that he's a really self-made fighter, it's just everything about him, he's had to figure some stuff out, workshop some shit together, Behanort says, have you watched NBA this season? I remember you called LeBron the GOAT. Also, I don't think I ever called LeBron the GOAT. LeBron's my favorite player of all time. I think he is the best player of all time as an NBA ability, talent. I still give it to Michael Jordan as the greatest of all time. Because I think he just is. I think that LeBron is LeBron in his prime, not LeBron today. Not LeBron today. LeBron today is a weird shell of himself that, can sometimes play good, sometimes can play great, a lot of times can play really mediocre. But I think LeBron in his prime, like 2018 or on the Heat, the things he was doing in his prime, I would put him up there, in my opinion, as the best ability basketball-wise of any player in history. Or at least comparable to Michael Jordan. Or as good or better or something. But ultimately, in terms of resume and achievements, I think Michael Jordan still has the greatest resume and achievements in basketball. Sometimes the cards just don't shake out a certain way. Also, do Giannis or Luka have the GOAT potential? I think they could both potentially be like, a top 10, top 15 player all time. The greatest player of a generation type. But I don't think that either of them will surpass, even LeBron on the all-time list, in my opinion. And LeBron, no matter how you spin it, you got to put LeBron top 5, right? I think, unless you really don't like him. So I don't think I don't think they're going to pass up LeBron, for example. But both really great players. Also, I've been watching a bit more NBA than usual, or than last year, this season. I've been getting back into it. Last season I just couldn't, I was so busy. Atras says, Oda has written loose conditions for both Zoro and Sanji. Zoro with the medicine and Sanji's Germa rampage. That is a great point, Atras. This is after the line about the wings of the Pirate King. I think Zoro and Sanji will lose, leading to the raid failing. I really like that possibility. That, at the moment with Zoro, the power-up that he kind of got. Because what's interesting is that Oda ended the chapter with Zoro kind of having this flashback, reaching this next level. If you compare it to, for example, Zoro versus Mr. One, the flow of the fight was kind of Zoro ended a chapter with his back against the wall, and then the final chapter was Zoro unlocking that next level and defeating Mr. One. I'm not saying this fight follows the exact same beats, but I think it's interesting that Zoro and Sanji, as you said, they're unlocking these final abilities. Sanji with his Germa power-up, Zoro with his Conqueror's Haki thing. It looks like they're about to do really well. Maybe they will. Obviously, maybe they will. But at the same time, I think the possibility definitely exists that, there's going to be a stop for them. Not that Zoro's even necessarily going to lose to King, but rather he's not going to be able to play out the full extent of his ability because, again, like you said, medication could come up. Same with Sanji. He looks like he's got a really good shot versus Queen right now, but if he does the full Germa transformation, he's not going to be able to follow through. So I think something essentially stopping those two from being able to do everything that they can. Coinciding with Luffy, coinciding with Luffy losing again to Kaido. I still think Luffy loses again to Kaido no matter what. Whether or not that means that the whole raid fails, I still think it's going to fail, obviously. But I can understand, if it doesn't fail, it doesn't fail. As long as a certain amount of drama comes out from Luffy losing again. I think everything is set up for Luffy to lose one more time to Kaido, because the previous losses, the way that they played out, are not how Oda usually writes losses for Luffy. One sec. Go back. Oh no, did I start the Kobe LeBron arguments? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Oh, everybody casting me as different things. Morge for Bellamy. Morge for Mr. 2. Morge for Kokoro. Morge is Magellan. You guys are so gracious. Thanks. Chopper. Gaimon. Foxy. Jinbei? Someone said Jinbei. Jordan Taylor said Jinbei. I have half a mind to make him a mod. I gotta break out the super chat thing again. Give me 1 second. You guys don't even know what I'm talking about, but it's a separate tab, a secret special tab, for when I can't keep up with the chat. Guys, listen to this name. This is wild. Pedro Vinicius Prius Welter. That's 4 names in one. So Pedro's Vinicius Prius Welter says, Luffy still have another power-up in sight, his awakening. Do you think that Zoro and Sanji will have another power-up on the future after their ones in Onigashima? And if so, what do you suppose their power-ups are going to be? That's a great question. I definitely think so. I don't think that they all peak with Onigashima. Their final power-up, though, it's too hard to imagine, just because it feels like they're already kind of approaching the point where they're going to max out everything in the foreseeable future. So, for example, Zoro, Ashura is kind of like the main thing, right? And it seems like Ashura, that's being touched on again with his mastery of Conqueror's Haki. Sanji, he seems like he's about to tap into whatever maximum genetic abilities his body has left. You know, be that Lunarian, be that durability, strength, power, etc. Sanji, I think I would still like to see improved observation Haki. Zoro is the tricky one because it just feels like Zoro, there's not really a clear avenue for him to go after mastering Conqueror's Haki. Because Zoro's abilities, you know, it's not like he's a Devil Fruit user like Luffy, so he can't unlock new Devil Fruit abilities like Awakening. He doesn't have these genetic abilities like Sanji. Zoro's really just Zoro. And, you know, last chapter it was even confirmed, right, that like even swords that Zoro has, like Enma, the sword, it's ultimately the swordsman, right? So it's not like, even if Zoro keeps getting really good swords, right, he's already got like near tippy top grade swords, and like it's not like a huge like game changer, right? Like it's still just a sword at the end of the day. So, you know, I don't think that, like, ultimately what I really liked about Enma, by the way, that maybe I didn't discuss as much in the chapter review, what I really liked about the way that Enma went was that for a long time it was kind of a little controversial gray area of like, Enma's pulling out the Haki from Zoro and stuff, is this really fair, etc. And then like obviously Zoro fans are defending, like, no, it's all Zoro, etc. And, you know, at the end of the day, I like the full explanation that, you know what, Zoro has to just fight to his full potential for Enma to really work for him, right? So if Zoro just lets out all the Haki he can, uses Conqueror's Haki, etc. effectively, Enma was more so a tool to push Zoro to be the best Zoro that he could be, right? Because if you're not, you know, maxing out your Haki output or whatever, you can't really control Enma, right? And obviously it's more nuanced than that, right? But at the end of the day, Enma was not a sword that was like allowing Zoro to do more than he could. It was a sword that pushed Zoro to do the most that he could, right? I like that explanation a lot. I should probably say that in some video so that people stop bothering me about Zoro and Enma, okay? But I like that quite a bit, but that also means that there's no sword in the future that could magically make Zoro better. So, unlike Luffy, unlike Sanji, it's hard to see what a future path is for Zoro. Sanji is the least developed Haki out of the three of them, overall. Zoro, you could say observation Haki he needs to work on, but like Sanji is no real, like, he doesn't have advanced Haki in any category, so I would like to see Sanji down the line advance his Haki in some category. Scholar H says, hey Morge, can't wait to listen to this at work. Have you noticed Zoro's smile occasionally looks like a katana blade? No, I've not noticed that. That's interesting. That's an interesting observation. I'll look out for that more in the future. Ninerbot says, do you think the live action can properly adapt Sanji? I don't think his hate for trans people can go down in this day and age. I am 100% certain that they're not going to play a lot of these in general. Forget Sanji. I think in general, the portrayal of the Okama, the Newkama, etc., is going to be very different or non-existent in the One Piece live action. Actually, no, because like it's the perfect opportunity to, like, you know, Hollywood would jump on that opportunity. Like, yeah, they would jump on, like, they would portray them characters like Mr. 2, etc. very differently, but like, you know, it's a canonical. These are canonical trans characters, so I imagine that, like, you know, Hollywood scriptwriters or whatever, they would love that opportunity to write more trans people in. But I think the portrayal will just be different, and Sanji, I think a lot of Sanji's antics will be changed quite significantly. Gunter says, why do you think we haven't seen a giant with Haki or Devil Fruit? I mean, Hajrudin even touches on that. He's like, imagine a giant with a Logia Fruit. How broken would that be? In reality, it wouldn't be that broken. Because, like, it's weird, but, like, how big a character is seems to matter so little in One Piece at this point. You have to get to characters like Zunisha before it becomes, like, a real problem that a character is huge. So, I don't know why we haven't seen a giant with Haki or Devil Fruit. Have we not seen a giant with Haki? It's hard to say. It's entirely possible that, like, Dory and Broggy had it. I think Oda's kind of like... And we know all Vice Admirals have Haki. So that means that like John Giant and a lot of the Giant squad, they likely have Haki. You know, if all Vice Admirals do. I'm sure Bastille did. That Sabo fought. I think it's the simpler answer is basically like it just hasn't been important. I think not having a Devil Fruit is interesting, but I'm sure that'll change in Elbaf. I think any really strong, impressive Giants will be from Elbaf, so we might see some Devil Fruit users, some more prominent Haki users, etc. Multi-2 says, lol, I was going more on the assumption that Crocodile or Moria forgot how to use Haki. Oh, yeah, that's true. So, that actually might be a bit of a video topic I do in the future. I don't know if Moria ever had it down, but I would not be surprised if Crocodile had Haki and, like, he didn't really have that in Alabasta because of, you know, just being out of the game for so long. I think that would be a great explanation if we could get that, because that would reconcile, like, I still believe personally that One Piece, in my opinion, has only one really, really, I guess, noteworthy moment where it feels like something really inconsistent power scaling wise happens, and that's Crocodile in Marineford. You can kind of justify a lot of what he's able to pull off in Marineford, because he actually doesn't pull off that much. It's more so his attitude that comes with everything, but, like, you know, it's not like he actually beats anyone significant or, like, you know, does anything that significant. I think the anime plays things up a little bit more too. I think probably the most impressive thing he did was, like, not immediately get knocked out by, like, Jozu, but, like, still, he still seemed more impressive than, like, Alabasta Luffy. Alabasta Crocodile. I think a nice little soft explanation would be like, Crocodile was using Haki in Marineford, whereas he was not in Alabasta. It's not really needed, but I think that stands out a little bit. Behenort says, Math is a sexy Chad who gets all the ladies. Math is a sexy Chad who gets all the ladies, is a great musician, and is very smart. Thus say the Morge. Math? No. What? What's Math? Are you talking about Math, the general? I must have missed something. Math is a... I don't know if this is a typo by you, or you're making fun of me and how I talk about math. Because I don't like math. I don't like it that much. 8 Gates Production says, do you like Black Clover? Says, what do you like about it? Black Clover is definitely my guilty pleasure. I think right now it's in a weird spot. I thought I was really liking the current arc, actually, even though everybody else hated it. But if the current arc is about to wrap up, then I think I really hate the current arc. Thought the current arc is actually going to be a lot longer than it is. Or, like, building to something more. What do I like about it? If you take away all your expectations of, like, serious thematic development or, like, long-term consequences or, like, you know, just significantly heavy dramatic beats in Black Clover and just, like, enjoy it as, like, yeah, like a guilty pleasure, like, series that has actually, like, that cares about all of its characters. That's really big. It cares about all of its characters, and it has storylines for all of its characters and character arcs for all of its characters. Very funny. Really, really funny series. So I really like the interactions and such of the groups of main characters because they're a lot of fun to watch. Very lovable group. It has a lot of elements of what I liked about older One Piece, basically, and the fights are very good. Even if people kind of shit on the fights sometimes, I think a lot of the fights are actually really, really good if you think about them a little bit. That's pretty much it. And I think Black Clover is well planned. It actually is a series that's well planned. Unless the current arc kind of goes off the rails, which it feels like it might be about to. Bobby the Blizzard says, what do you think are Zoro and Sanji's best fights in the series? Wait, one last thing I'll add about Black Clover. Gets a really bad rap for, like, how it begins. I think if you don't give it, like, a really long, solid chance, it's, like, really just a copy-paste of other series. And it does grow out of that over time and become an enjoyable series. But for a long time, it's just, like, this is just a rip-off of everything else. So Bobby the Blizzard says, what do you think are Zoro and Sanji's best fights in the series? Oh, that's really simple. Not counting the current stuff, because we don't know how the current stuff's going to play out. Zoro versus Mr. One, easy. Sanji versus Jabura, easy. I think those are their best fights. I think their current fights have the potential to get there. They just got to go on a bit longer and like see how they play out. AI says if the live action One Piece somehow succeeds to the point of reverie, getting to the reverie, they better be casting all y'all as cameos or we're boycotting. That'd be hilarious. That'd be awesome to see. I don't know how many of us can act. Darth Pumpkin says, is there a theory video you came close to publishing but got debunked before posting? Mord should be the bug full body steps on in the Baratier or Roger. Thanks for the first part of your super chat. I'm going to ignore the casting comment. Theory I got close to publishing but got debunked before posting. Dude, I want to say yes, but I don't know what. Like, I'm trying to think. I feel like it's definitely happened. I'm trying to remember what. It's definitely happened. It's definitely happened. I might have to get back to you on that. I know it's happened though recently. Or at some point in the Onigashima battle. It was probably... Sorry, I don't want to linger on this too long, but I'm trying to think of like a good example because it's happened at least once. It might have happened like once or twice, but it's probably fine. I mean, probably fine to move on. I'll tell you if I can remember. Probably not going to remember though. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus, great name, says, I think King is the next Straw Hat. Per the chart that you made, the next mate should be similar to Nami and Robin. King is the next Straw Hat. One sec. I'm trying to process this. King is the next Straw Hat. Per the chart that you made, the next mate should be similar to Nami and Robin. I think the real similarity is not being female, but death and the importance to getting to One Piece. I literally don't get it. Your whole thing doesn't connect. King is the next Straw Hat. Okay, death and the importance of getting to One Piece. Okay, so I see what you're saying. That's the similarity between Nami and Robin. Nami because she'll navigate them there. Robin because of the poneglyph, obviously reading the true history, etc. Rio poneglyphs, Red Road poneglyphs, etc. But I don't think King is gonna. In that case, I think Yamato would be a better option, right? Odin's journal and all that. Cigarverse says, "What's your thoughts on the anime explaining the 1% man?" I saw some stuff on that on my Twitter timeline, but I didn't really read the gist of it. I mean, that could just be something as simple as like the anime. Like, my guess is that it was just more clear in Japanese, and the anime, they're actually Japanese people, so they can like make a more fair extrapolation, or they took a guess and they're wrong. So that's basically it. Because I remember when that chapter came out, a lot of people were like, no, it's very obvious who the 1% man is. And most of them were like, yeah, it's talking about X-Drake. So I don't really know what else to say. Behanort says, Math is my friend from Discord. He keeps saying he's ugly and dumb and his music is bad, but you said he's great, therefore it's the truth. Oh, okay, I didn't know it was like a nice... I couldn't understand what you were saying right there. I literally didn't understand. Math is my friend from Discord. I've not been in the Discord in a long, long time, so I don't know Math. But he keeps saying he's ugly and dumb and his music is bad. Look, Math, you're great. And Behanwitz did not pay me to say that this time. I don't know what else to say, but I think it's very often that you can have a worse opinion of yourself than other people do. And I think that if you enjoy playing music, then like I don't think like if you enjoy playing music, I don't think that you would put out music that you yourself don't like, right? So if you yourself don't like it, then if you yourself like it, then obviously that doesn't mean that other people are gonna like it, but like it does mean that there are other people out there who will like there's some people out there who will like it. And I think it's much easier, especially when you're producing something like artistic, to just be like, other people won't like this. But if you made it for a reason, then that means that you like it, which means that there is something probably about it that other people will like, even if not everybody likes it. I don't know if that makes any sense or helps in any way, but I do think that a lot of people tend to have a much more negative perception of themselves than like the outside world does. And I think it can be, because I've had friends like this where I think that like it's very easy to misinterpret things from, how do I even explain this? But like, it's easy to misinterpret things as basically being like more negative than they are. Like I don't know. I've seen people basically like allow kind of like take the worst assumptions out of every little interaction. Do you know what I mean? And that just turns into a spiral where you start thinking that, I guess you're ugly, you're not smart, etc. When really you might be overblowing a lot of things that you're experiencing. Not to say it's not valid. I think I probably shouldn't have gone down this rabbit hole, but I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. I'm going to leave it alone for now. Ninerbot says, do you think Fairy Tail is a ripoff of One Piece? I don't even know. I think, yeah, it rips off aspects of One Piece, like Shanks, Guild Arts, etc. I think it's like a bit of a caricature of what One Piece could be. As they yell about Nakama like every 10 seconds. I liked Fairy Tail initially. I thought some of the early arcs were actually like enjoyable. And then it just kind of really, 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 really like doubled down on all of like the cheesiest aspects of itself. Like at first I think I viewed it as like, similar like, well, I was very young when I read Fairy Tail. So maybe it wasn't even good at the beginning. And maybe I just got older and I was like, oh, it's not good. I don't really have much to say about Fairy Tail. I think enough people are mean about Fairy Tail that I don't think I have to say anything about Fairy Tail. I'll just leave that series alone. Brim says, love your channel. Thank you, Brim. Appreciate it. Alright, now we're caught up. Pretty much. Kid Spicken says, lazy analogy. What does that even mean? I guess that was too far back for me to know what he's talking about. I bet it was a great analogy. Alpaca Mail says, do you read Record of Ragnarok? I have not caught up to it in a bit, but apparently Matt is the most active user in my Discord since Potential Pizza. Well, I've not been there in a while, so I would not know. But, what was I saying? Record of Ragnarok. I enjoyed Record of Ragnarok's anime was unwatchable. But the manga is actually really cool. It's just like it's like, Record of Ragnarok's manga is like the perfect battle manga. I use perfect maybe a little too loosely there, but it's just like, what more do you want? It's just like a ridiculous setup. It's pretty much all fights, and all the fights have some sort of interesting twist or aspect to them. It's gods versus the most notable humans in history. The one thing is that like their warriors on the human side are like a little. It's a bit hit or miss, I guess, for me, because it's got a bit of an Eastern skew in terms of the notable humans. So, for example, they'll talk about like this famous sumo wrestler, and I'm like, I don't know who that is, or this famous swordsman, and I'm like, I don't know who, like samurai, and I'm like, I don't know who that is, or this like Chinese general, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. But then they're like, well, Jack the Ripper, and I'm like, I know that guy, One sec. Oh, fuck. This mouse isn't connected. Bard here says, Super Chat from the Poke Squad. Hey, Moj, I was wondering if the raid does fail and the Flying Six get back up, are we getting new matchups or a continuation of the first fights? I think we would get a rerun of some of the matchups, because, like, Usopp never fought Page 1, for example. I still think that Sasaki-Frankie connection that a lot of people speculated on could be a thing. The one thing I don't believe we'll get, though, is Black Maria versus Robin. I feel like that fight felt pretty conclusive and final. That felt right to me. Now, on the Toby Roppo getting back up, go read what Crocodile said about zone users after they beat them in Impel Down. There's like a whole page that Oda dedicated to the fact that zone users, and particularly awakened zone users, tend to play dead. And that them being defeated doesn't actually mean that they're defeated. Go read that full page, because the way I'm making it sound makes it sound like, oh, it's just Morge talking crazy, but if you read read that whole thing, read what Crocodile says about the Impel Down guards after they go down, it's like very, very... Oda like writes a full scene to make a point of it that like, look, Awakened Zone users, they might look like they go down, but they actually are very likely to get back up soon. Just saying, just my 2 cents, just my thoughts. Cigar Verk says, nope, we did that one. We did that one. Hold on, guys. Oh, fuck. One sec. Lubu shouldn't have lost? Nah, I think it was good to have them. Well, I shouldn't say anything. Don't want to spoil nothing. But I already did. I need to open up the other tab again. Hold on. Thought I was all good. Says, I don't want any more Straw Hats. Why not? I could use some more Straw Hats. I know what you're saying, though. Yamil Diaz says, do you remember the 13 cats in cover 861 and the 13 zodiac signs? Plus the 444 theory suggests 13 crew. So after Carrot and Yamato, we should get one. Yeah, I mean, I talked about in my video of like how many Straw Hats I expect, or the final Straw Hats or whatever. I've talked about, I think that 12 followers makes sense. One of the reasons being, and people, like, this would require a longer video kind of defending this argument. I think there are you can find soft connections to Christianity throughout One Piece. Leader and 12 followers, it is a thing, right? Luffy does technically play the role of the Messiah in the context of the story of One Piece. That is essentially what he is in this world to do, to bring the dawn of the world. And he needs his followers to help him do it. There are enough soft parallels to Christianity throughout One Piece that you could strongly make the argument. And for plus 444, there's a certain parody to it. 4 from East Blue, 4 from the Paradise, and 4 from the New World. It just fits. I'm strongly support the 444 theory. Angel Rise says, have you checked out D Gray Man? I have not, but I've thought about it. I've thought about it. It looks interesting. It has a great mystery build-up, kind of like One Piece. Also, it's pronounced Reyes. Reyes. Sorry, Angel Reyes. My bad. I will remember for next time, probably. I might check out D Gray Man. Is it D Gray Man? Is it like Dr. Gray Man? Is it short for something? I might check it out. I've wanted to check it out for a while. Jordan Taylor says, you never explained why you like Beelzebub so much. The creator recently lost his second series, which sucks because I really liked it. Beelzebub was really, 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 really funny. I thought it was a really, really funny series. Like, really, really... it was just a good time. It was a really funny series. I did not like it for... it's not like a very serious dramatic series or anything like that. It was just a really great comedy, in my opinion. I think it had some of the funniest running gags, funniest characters, etc. And the action was fun. It was enjoyable. Like, it was a nice mix of, action and comedy, basically. I think, on the serious side of things, like the actual lore, the build-up, the battles or whatever, it got a little rushed towards the end, no doubt. So I won't say I was very satisfied with the ending. I think it was fine. But comedically, that series was just a lot of fun to read. I have a soft spot in my heart for Beelzebub. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus says, Nami loses her mother. Robin loses her mother and entire island. King loses his mother and his entire race. A progression of magnitude. People are telling me that you're trolling Tall Midget Cuck Jesus, so I'm just going to assume that. Here's the thing. Some of you guys are like, look, it's obvious this person's trolling, etc. You guys don't understand. I see so many of these comments, so many of these, super chats, donations, etc. that, like, I've seen it all. I've seen some people say wildly ridiculous things that they do seriously believe. and just theories that people really, really seem are obvious, or like connections or whatever, and like, I don't want to like laugh at anybody's stuff. Like, if I think it's obviously a troll, I'll say it. But like, look, if Tall Midget Cuck Jesus thinks that King's gonna join the crew, then who am I to laugh at that? But no, Tall Midget Cuck Jesus, I don't think that's gonna happen. Jag1901 says, "Hey Morge, don't know if you've already talked about this, but have you watched Arcane? God damn it. How many Arcane questions? If so, not your fault, obviously, but I might have to watch it at the rate that so many people are telling me to watch it. If so, what do you think about it? Sorry if I'm just adding to the probable mountain of questions about it. I guess I've only gotten a few questions about Arcane, but I've not watched it. Look, I'm sure it's good. I'm really sure it's good. I've seen so many positive things about it. So many people seem to think that it's like the best thing ever. I could believe that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Arcane's actually really, really good. I definitely believe it. I just don't want to. If enough people keep like ranting and raving about it, I probably will just push myself to watch it. It's just that like getting invested in a TV show is such a time suck, So I would rather not. If I can avoid it, I'm gonna try to not watch Arcane, basically. But if I keep seeing, everybody talking about it on Twitter, on YouTube, Reddit, etc. Well, not Reddit, but just in general, people really talking about it, I'll probably give it a try at some point. You know what I really need? I think once it gets to the point that people in real life are telling me, hey, watch this show, like with Invincible, that's when I'm kind of like, all right, it's spread everywhere. It's not just, the weebs. I gotta give it a try. Darth Pumpkin says, you should fill the whole shelf with Morge plushes. The background's about to change. Over the course of the next week, I'm trying to change the background to something that's actually, aesthetically pleasing instead of just sad like the current background is. So, the Morge plush will feature in the background, though. Guaranteed. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus says, Nami gets them to One Piece, Robin leads them to One Piece, King will likely be able to help Luffy use One Piece. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus, too many people have told me you're trolling, I can't believe you at this point anymore. I'm sorry. Crow Stray God says, the Whitebeard Pirates would be solid if people just stayed on board. Odin, Ino, Neko come back after Roger dies, BB doesn't kill Patch, meaning Ace stays. Dude, the Whitebeard Pirates would be insane if everybody, if all those guys stayed on board. The Marines that have a real problem. If they rolled up to Marineford like that. And with Whitebeard, if Whitebeard was magically in his prime, I don't know. I don't know how the Marineford War goes anymore. Niderbot says, why do you think Oda is so scared to kill off characters? Oda himself explained it. I don't know if, you never know how serious of an explanation it is on Oda's end. But he talked about, he wants everyone to be really happy and have that, cathartic party at the end. And that's hard to do if a character died. But, and you can see it, Marineford, no party. Whole Cake Island, no real party. It was actually the most melancholy ending to a successful win arc that they've ever had. And I understand it. I think one of Oda's greatest strengths as a writer, I think he does it better than any writer I've seen, is he can write really powerful, cathartic feeling, that cathartic feeling of victory or justice or joy or euphoria, seeing just seeing the bad guys defeated one by one, because Oda really builds up that sense of injustice, unfairness, and sadness so well throughout the arc, and just something so fundamentally wrong is happening. You just want to see the villains just sent flying. You want to see everything restored to happiness, etc. He does such a good job of that sort of A to B shift in emotional storytelling. That's his greatest strength as a writer. So, a major character death doesn't perfectly play into that, obviously. I would rather he not try to use death to build to the sadness of the scenario and then pull the rug out from under us. But I understand it, right? Also, by the way, that's one of the reasons I think Wano is not one of One Piece's best arcs yet. I think it's missing one of Oda's best elements, which is that sort of rise from a really, really low, heavy section of the story that gets us really, gets the tears going, just gets us really, really sad, upset, riled up, gets the main characters really, really heavily emotionally invested and angry and, driven, right? Gets that out of them, and then the final battle begins. I think we skip that section, unless the raid fails, in which case Oda's just built up to the best scenario of that in history. L'assassin Silencio says, remember when Luffy got mad at Usopp for asking Dark King at One Piece? What is the point of having Yamato if she already read Oden's journal? Look, I'm of the boat that Yamato does not join the Straw Hats, so I'm right there with you, buddy. I don't think she joins. I think it does ruin the story to a degree. The Pirate here says, do you think Morge is giving the Monster Trio too much shine compared to the others, or is this nothing new? I guess you meant Oda and mixed up the stuff. Also, part 2 mischap from the Poke Squad. Would we finally get page 1 versus Usopp? I'm going to answer both those questions on the Monster Trio and Usopp once I return from this scheduled break. My strategy is so good. I leave you guys with a question, and then I take a break. It's so good. Has any other streamer ever come up with this strategy? I doubt it. I think I might be a pioneer in that strategy, the break strategy. So, do I think Oda is giving the Monster Trio too much shine compared to the others? I mean, yes, 100%. Like, if this is the final battle, then, like, Jesus Christ, what happened to Brook? What happened to Usopp? You know? Yeah, I think 100%. I mean, again, like, in general, for the Straw Hats, like, only Luffy and Zoro really had, like, much of a plot line for the majority of Wano in general. So everyone else was kind of ignored for most of Onigashima, and for most of Wano, Act 1 and Act 2. And then, in Onigashima, everyone kind of got, like, a spotlight really briefly. But it's just that Zoro and Sanji, so, like, Zoro and Sanji kind of get more shine, reason being that Zoro had some setup from Act 2 to go off of, which is getting Enma, right, some setup regarding Shimotsuki stuff. It's drawing from his actual past, right, like his childhood, etc. So Zoro, there was enough basic stuff set up for him that we can get some good character stuff now. And Sanji had nothing throughout Wano, but Whole Cake Island, Oda can pick up from Whole Cake Island and write some stuff in for Sanji right now for Wano, right? So I think that, yeah, the Monster Trio are getting too much shine compared to the other Straw Hats, but really, I would just rather the other Straw Hats get, you know, the equivalent amount of shine. It's just hard to do that when they didn't really have anything for Act 1 or Act 2. And, you know, they're not really like Sanji, who had something really important in Whole Cake Island that Oda can pick back up again. Now, beyond that, Wait, what was the rest of the question? Oh. From Poke Squad, the Poke Squad. Would we finally get page 1 versus Usopp? I would love that. In fact, someone pointed out that Usopp lied, saying that I am the man who defeated 2 Tobi Roppo. So it's possible that actually, maybe we don't get Nami versus Ulti again, because maybe we don't really need to see that fight. Maybe we get Usopp versus page 1 and Ulti, which would be wild. Divine X says, how strong is Yamato compared to the All-Stars? I am very hesitant to guess that because it's how well characters did on the roof is not the best way to compare them to commanders or all-stars because clearly many of us underestimated, I think myself included, underestimated the all-stars or just commanders, or how much something against Kaido on the rooftop means, because we never know how hard Kaido is trying, right? So for example, let's use Zoro as an example, right? After what Zoro did on the rooftop, so Zoro did a lot of crazy stuff, right? He injured Kaido multiple times with the Twister attack. Kaido had to get out of the way of that initial Enma attack that sliced off Onigashima's horn. Zoro blocked, very, very possibly, there's an argument, Zoro temporarily, momentarily blocked possibly the strongest attack in One Piece history, right? There's an argument for that. The attack from 2 Yonko simultaneously. And then after that, Zoro cut Kaido, scarred Kaido, according to Kaido himself, with Ashura. So a lot of crazy feats by Zoro right there, right? So a lot of people, after that, there was a lot of discussion of, how strong is Zoro? A lot of people I remember were saying, Zoro can beat any first mate. Zoro can beat Katakuri, right? I saw a lot of that discussion. I didn't know how to feel. I thought it was too early to tell, but it did feel like Zoro had hit some sort of insane level. And then we actually got to Zoro versus King, and we got the reminder that these first mates are not, they're nothing to underestimate. They're really, really, really strong. So I think it's too hard to call Yamato versus a first mate right now. I think it's literally too hard to call. Because Yamato just... The tricky thing is, after Yamato got, she started wielding advanced Conqueror's Haki, that's when it becomes really tricky to start comparing. Yeah, I think at that point it became really tricky to start comparing. I think before that point, I'd definitely say that she's, around the level of the All-Stars. Whether using advanced Conquerors has, leveled her up to something else, I don't know. But at the moment, I'm just not going to try and guess. Let's wait for, a better measuring stick. The Last Orphan says, do you think Haki is the source of most pre-time skip power scale issues? How do you think it muddies post-time skip power scaling due to Marineford? I don't think... I think if we got some simple comparisons, right? How do I say this? It doesn't... I think at the top level, right, it doesn't muddy that much because what we saw at Marineford is what we saw at... we got the idea of, how... commanders stack up to admirals, for example, right? We got to see Whitebeard versus some admirals. We got to see some skirmishes with Garp and Sengoku and such taking action. I don't think Haki, the stuff we got to see of the strongest characters, I don't think it's muddied too much by Haki because we know they were using it even if we couldn't tell. We saw the admirals create a barrier, invisible barrier against Whitebeard. We saw them somehow dodging his attacks, right, with his armament Haki attacks. So that tells us observation Haki, or even possibly advanced observation Haki like Katakuri. Stuff like that. So we've got lots of evidence and stuff. I think it's more tricky for the lower you go, because it gets harder to scale, what does pre-time skip Lucci, where does he stack against, New World characters, right? Does he get beaten by New World fodder, or would he actually still do well in, let's say, the Dressrosa tournament, stuff like that. I think I've always maintained that the simplest thing would be if we see a Pacifista. The more we get to see of Pacifista in the New World, the better we get an idea of how pre-time skip stuff scales to post-time skip stuff. Because Pacifista are the perfect benchmark. They're robots. We saw for a fact that they're roughly equal to the full Straw Hat crew pre-time skip. So if we get to see some post-time skip and see how characters do against Pacifista post-time skip, that gets us a very, very clear measuring stick. Super Domestication says, how's Oda going to square the cathartic party at the end of this arc and the looming threat of the world government? Well, if Onigashima is the final battle, if it's the final battle, then I've mentioned this before, I don't think that we get more fighting against the world government after that, because that's just not how... It just doesn't work. It ruins so much of Oda's style of storytelling, you know? So, look at every final battle, like Dressrosa, Alabasta, Enies Lobby, etc. You don't want more action, like, taking away from the big victory, right? Anything that comes with the world government, generally, historically, has been... They've escaped, or it's been put off for a few days, so they get to, like, dwell in their victory, stuff like that. I think with Wano, if this is the final battle, my guess was in the past that I talked about the 4 routes of the Marines in Wano. What I guessed was that the Marines would realize that they can't just swoop in like vultures and take Wano for themselves, like they were expecting to, because the strength of the Straw Hat Alliance and the Supernova Alliance would be more than they had bargained for. So it would just be a show of force that makes the Marines turn away. Because remember, the Marines are not interested in, like, they don't want to just go to war with Yonkos, right? Unless they feel like they have to. So they think that they're going to get to swoop in and take over the island from the defeated Beast Pirates. They don't realize how strong the Straw Hat crew, etc. are. So I think if they arrived and actually realized that, whoa, they beat these guys straight up. Like, the Straw Hat Pirates defeated a Yonko crew straight up, and they're still standing. Like, the Straw Hats are in perfectly fine shape for the most part. Right? And, you know, you've got all these other Supernovas, all these Samurai on their side. I think a show of force, if they win this battle at Onigashima, I think a show of force would be enough for them to, like, claim this territory, much the same way that, like, other Yonko claimed this territory, where it's like, look, world government, you don't want to fight us right now. You need to go back and get, like, if you want to fight us, you need to, like, declare a full-blown all-out war. This is not just, like, a cleaning up the trash sort of scenario. Lissandro, what is with the names today? Lissandro Papadam Molina says, hi, Moj, have you seen Archer's first video of his big theory? And if you did so, what do you think about what he said about Luffy's dream? Alright, I did want to watch Archer's video because he's been building it up a lot, right? He's dropping it as a series. I don't know if that's the best idea. I think one giant theory might do a little better. But Archer likes his style of presentation, so dropping it one by one, maybe that is gonna fit his way of doing things better and like what his audience expects. For me, I wanted to watch the first thing. I wanted to watch the first part. It was somewhat long. I did accidentally go down to the comments a little bit. The gist of it that I got is that the Luffy's big dream is the world's biggest party. That's not really fair to Archer because I didn't watch the video. So I don't want to like give my comments on it. Because I didn't watch his argument. So it's not really fair to him. But, and I don't even know if that's actually what he said or that's just something I happen to see people saying in the comments. My gut instinct is that if that is Luffy's biggest dream, for me that would be somewhat disappointing. Just because it doesn't feel substantive. It also just feels like almost a given, if that makes sense, that like, you know, we would expect the world's biggest party anyway at the end of the series, right? We kind of just expect that, that would happen. And you can like add more meaning to it, I suppose, by like, well, it's unity, it's peace, it's like everyone being free and happy together or whatever, everyone smiling or laughing together or something. Equality maybe. You could throw in a lot of stuff, but it still doesn't feel like a really substantive dream to have. Like, it's just not it's not bad, it's just not, and this is nothing towards Archer. I'm saying, like, I'm contemplating the idea and how I would like it. I don't know if it's, like, an accurate theory or not. I'm not judging the accuracy of the theory. Maybe he's got a million good reasons for why that is the dream. I'm just saying, like, would I like that being, you know, what Luffy and Roger have been hiding? I think no, it just doesn't feel like that interesting to me, I guess, as like this hidden desire that Oda's been hiding. So it's not interesting, I guess. Cigar versus Marineford is all good as a war arc, but power-wise now it looks lackluster because Haki was not fleshed out. Whitebeard with advanced conquerors would have been wild. I don't know about that, because, like, dude, to be honest, like, if you go back and look at Marineford, the scale of that thing was, like, literally, there were panels where, because it doesn't really matter that Whitebeard doesn't have advanced conquerors at Marineford. Whitebeard had the Gura Gura fruit, which is, to this day, by far the wildest, most destructive fruit we've ever seen, right? Like, put it this way, it took the three admirals had to all together use advanced armament haki to stop an attack from Gura Gura. You can get technical and be like, well, we don't know if it took all three or something like that, but like that was what was shown to us, right? Visually, that's what it at least appears like. Maybe a single admiral could stop it. I don't know. All right, I'm just talking about the scale of things. Like, go back and look at some of the panels in the Marineford War. I've still seen nothing like it. Like the entire ocean, literally, like Marineford, the island was like this small little it's made to look like this small little I don't know, like this small little rock, and the entire ocean surrounding it is like twisting and turning. Like the walls of the entire sea are like rising far above the island. Like if you remember the panel or the chapter where like Whitebeard starts his rampage, I suppose. He starts by attacking, I think, John Giant, and then he like does this thing where he sort of like flips the sea, I suppose. That like the effects that Whitebeard was having with his Guruguru no Mi, like that's crazy. Like, to put into context, like splitting the sky, that's great, but Whitebeard did that like a week. Like, yeah, it's cool that Luffy and Kaido did that, but like that's kind of living up to what Whitebeard and Shanks did like a week before the Marineford War. You know, like this type of like we're now just getting to like what Luffy and Kaido are doing right now. We're now just getting to that level, right, that we were supposedly looking at back in the Marineford days, right? Like, we're now finally hitting that bar that Whitebeard and Shanks set all the way back in pre-time skip, right? So, to me, like, and that was just like a casual flex by them. So, to me, the stuff that Whitebeard showed over the course of the Marineford War, I think it's easy to forget, but, like, in terms of scale, like, it still far supersedes Onigashima. Like, people were talking, like, you had bystanders talking about throughout, Marineford, like on faraway islands like Saboti, talking about like, whoa, we're experiencing earthquakes, like all over the world they're experiencing earthquakes and tsunamis and stuff. So I don't really know what to say. Like, as long as Whitebeard had the Gura Gura no Mi, you got like several admirals and stuff there, like the scale of that war was significantly bigger than what's happening here. I mean, I always say this, but like the simple way to think about it is like in Marineford, the Yonko Empire, so the Whitebeard and his Whitebeard pirates, they were the underdogs against the the Marines, right? They were the underdogs against the Marines. In Onigashima, it's the Alliance that's the underdogs against the Yonko Empire, right? So the Straw Hats are to the Straw Hat Alliance is to the Yonko Empire what the Yonko Empire is to the Marines, and like all the Shichibukai lined up together. Now, if you're talking about pure like power creep, like we got to see more advanced Haki stuff here. I kind of get what you're saying. We are more visibly seeing advanced Haki stuff here. But at the same time, again, if you go back to Marineford, you can see the admirals using advanced armament to block Whitebeard's attacks. What Aokiji does and Kizaru does to avoid certain Haki-based attacks, even though they're Logia, that seems strongly implied to be, Future Sight advanced observation Haki, because it mimics exactly what effect Future Sight gives someone like Katakuri, which is being able to dodge armament Haki attacks, even though they're armament Haki attacks. So, I still think that there's lots of the stuff that you're seeing there hinted at back in Marineford, even if it wasn't as explicit. That's my opinion. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus says, it's costing me $4.99 to tell you this wasn't a troll. Just wait and see. King, then Vivi, then someone else. Don't know the last one yet. Alright, King. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus. I'm sorry if you weren't actually trolling. If it turns out that you were correct, then you will be remembered for sure. I will definitely go back and give you credit. Catherine Griffin says, did you wash your hands? Yes, I did. Yamil Diaz says, we have giants, dwarves, and long limbs in the Grand Fleet. We're getting fishmen, minks, and onis as crewmates, meaning that the last should be Lunarian, not king. Well, do you know that Sanji's DNA is technically Lunarian? Technically. Not confirmed. Not confirmed. But I see what you're saying there. Yeah, maybe it's possible. It's an interesting spin on it. If Tall Midget Cuck Jesus is right, he's the best theorist of all time. Ninja Dragon says thoughts on Obito as a character. I feel most of the criticism of his character is just a bad understanding of his character. Also same with Aizen. Look, I was never a huge Naruto fan. I really enjoyed the anime for the first part of it. The manga, I read the second half of it sporadically. So there are parts that I've skipped, parts that I've read, parts that I really enjoyed, parts not so much. I can't give the best take on Obito, okay? Because there's parts of the series that I definitely skipped around on. The Final War, I read most of it, but I read like pretty much the entire latter set, like final stretch of it, you know, when all the crazy stuff is happening, you know, 10 Tails released, etc. So I definitely missed out on a lot of the beats of the developing Obito storyline. I'm not going to say that I think it's good or bad. I just know what happened. I did not think it was good, but that's also partly because I was told by many people that it's not good. You know, like, you hear it so much, you don't actually go back and read it. So I don't have any thoughts on it. I don't think I could give it a fair shake. I know that some people exaggerate what it is, which is that Obito started this whole war because, you know, a girl rejected him, which is a funny way to spin it. But I understand it's not, like, accurate, you know. Aizen, I thought Aizen was always, like, a really cool villain. I understand, though, that, like, maybe things got stretched a bit too far in terms of, you know, how meticulously planned everything was on his end. Sorry, my voice is getting a bit dry. I'm gonna have to grab some water real quick. Be right back. But yeah, I think Aizen is like a memeable character, I suppose, but I always thought Aizen was a cool villain. And I think during the time that I was like into the big three, I was never quite as big into Naruto as the rest. As I told you, I skipped certain parts of it. But back when I was reading the big three like weekly, I mean, Aizen stood out as the most iconic villain of the three. So, I'll give it that. Daniel Paredes says, back to your hybrid point. Could that be a way Kaido's awakening gets activated and leads to Luffy being defeated again? Yes, I definitely think so. I think that if I had to envision things, my guess would basically be Luffy's doing well against Kaido, probably goes near fourth, probably winning. Kaido begins losing, flashback triggers, post-flashback, Kaido goes into hybrid form, turning point, things change, Luffy loses, etc. That's my guess. No one in particular says Shanks as the final poneglyph. I would agree, and I think it's on Elbaf, because Elbaf is Shanks' island, and Elbaf will be Shanks' arc. Mamadou Musa says, have you checked Arc or Horror Theory video on Luffy's dream? I responded to this a little earlier. I think you might have seen it. I find it is really good. I responded to it earlier this stream. Basically, I didn't watch it, but I think I got the gist of what happens. I don't think I can give like a fair discussion of it because I didn't watch all of his arguments. I just read the comments. So I'm not going to say like yes or no whether it's likely, but I will say do I like the idea or not. I think no, if it is for Luffy to have a giant party. I personally don't like that idea that much. But I also didn't see Archer's details on it. I'll get around to watching it soon because I know he put a lot of work into it, and I'm sure, you know, the way he does things, he's very meticulous, so, and he has a lot of knowledge of the series, so I'd be interested to see what he has to say. Is Kureha the beneficiary of the eternal youth surgery? I prefer the idea that Kureha is just like a really good doctor, and she's able to stay alive for so long because she's a really good doctor. I like that idea a lot better. I like it more as a gag. Darth Pumpkin says, can't wait to see Raizo's fight next chapter. Raizo versus Fukurokuju, the final fight of Wano that we're all waiting on with bated breath. Pirate King Ju says, how many more Conqueror coding users do you think we'll see? That's a good question. That's really hard. I like the idea that Akainu awakened Conqueror's Haki during his duel with Aokiji. I really like that idea. So let's say Akainu from the Marines, in my opinion. I don't think the rest of the admirals have it, in my opinion. Shanks, Mihawk. Who else we got? If we go back to the olden times, Rocks, Dragon. I personally think that might be it. Maybe I'm forgetting some people, but I think that might be it. Mickwing Zed says, the stuff we saw about King makes me think that Lunarians became devil fruits. What? No, that'd be insane. No, come on, that'd be insane. He ate a devil fruit. He ate the pterodactyl devil fruit. You think a devil fruit ate a devil fruit? Come on. But that's a really cool idea. Like, sometimes you just hear an idea that's so wild and out there that's just like, that's really interesting. If that's the case, that's like a really cool call. Because it's not, I don't think there's a, what is it about King that made you think that he's a devil fruit? Or he became a devil fruit? Or that Lunarians became devil fruit? Devil fruits. I didn't see anything that indicated that to me. That's just an interesting idea. Pirate King Ju says, Shimotsuki Haki, Ryum, I can't say this word, Zoro's cousin, cut off Goldie Roger's neck. Yeah, maybe Zoro is cousins with Marine Guard number 2. It's so funny because, like, 2 weeks ago when Zoro was getting, like, bodied by King, everyone was like, ZKK in the mud, etc. Now Zoro pulling out the advanced Conqueror's Haki, everyone's like, ZKK is back to life. It's back and forth. I see it. You know, I don't blame people. I see the possibilities both ways. Bagby Nas says, do you think Zoro has been holding back subconsciously because of his 2 leaders sink the ship plotline? I feel like that may come up soon. I would love if that's the case. I would just love that to be addressed. Some of Zoro's quotes throughout the arc, you know, too many leaders sink the ship. I'll round up the Wano Samurai. Conqueror's Haki becoming a thing for him. I would just love for things to head that direction. Power Ranger says, if the Admirals and people are going to get mad at me after this one. If the Admirals and Yonkos are supposed to be equals, and if there are 3 Yonkos at Marine Ford, then who would win? I don't think the Admirals and Yonkos are supposed to be equals. I think an Admiral can, I think Akainu could square off against a Yonko, but I don't think, all the Admirals are equal to all the Yonkos. Because the reality is that, Marines kind of sweat when these Yonkos team up. We've seen every time the Yonkos discuss teaming up, that's got the Marines sweating, a little bit. And on top of that, the One Piece world balance is supposed to be a little delicate. So yeah, the Marines all together, they can beat any individual Yonko crew, but the Yonko are also their own enemies with each other. So it's just 5 separate parties that kind of rule the world. One's the biggest, so it rules the most, but it's not strong enough that it can just wipe out the rest of the 4 parties. Otherwise it would have. But the Yonko, if they ever teamed up with each other, then the Marines start having a problem. And that's these are all things that have been established multiple times. It's just that the Yonko hate each other just as much as the Marines for the most part. Like, the only two that were on somewhat good terms were Shanks and Whitebeard. And even those two, like, they started swinging at each other as soon as they were on the same ship. But, like, besides that, it was established that Big Mom and Kaido hated each other for years. Obviously, Kaido, Big Mom, didn't like Whitebeard. Same with Shanks, etc. So, yeah, these guys are not friends. That's why the balance of the world makes sense. It's like 5 parties that don't like each other, basically. And one party rules the world because it's the biggest, and it can beat anyone else individually, but it's not so ridiculously in control that, like, you know, if these other parties started teaming up, that it would be guaranteed to win. That's what's been established. I'm not going to be like, calculate, like, 2 Yonko crews will beat the Marines, 3 Yonko... I don't know what the math adds up to. Maybe it's 2 Yonko crews together. Maybe it's 3 Yonko crews together. Maybe it's 4. I don't know. But clearly the Marines start getting scared when, like, the possibilities of team-ups start happening. Tall Midget Cuck Jesus says, Nami was the most important crewmate for Arlong, Robin was the most important crewmate for Crocodile, and King is likely the most important to Kaido. Dude, Tall Midget Cuck Jesus, I see these similarities you're bringing up. I just think it's a long shot for King to join the Straw Hat Pirates. I just do. There's nothing you can say that will convince me otherwise. If you're correct on it, you're a genius. But it's hard for me to imagine. Power Ranger says, King's race can survive in any harsh environment. So does that apply to Devil Fruits too? Haki aside, can the magma/ice fruit hurt King? Yes, I definitely think magma and ice and things like that can hurt King. Yeah, I mean, I think that all that's been proven so far is that physical force, King can really tank it. And even on top of that, like, Zoro's initial attack, when he came out of his, you know, cast, his cocoon or whatever, that seemed to affect King. So it's hard to tell. We need to see the limits of King's abilities first. Angel Reyes says, who's a better villain, Aizen or Arlong with Fishman Island context? I mean, Aizen. Aizen. Like, you're talking about a better... Even with Arlong, I don't know how well-written of a character he is, because, like, I think he's a good villain, and I think the more context we get around him, like, it does provide a more nuanced perspective to why he was the way he was. Definitely. It's just that we didn't have any of that information when he was the actual villain of the story. Sorry, but, so, I don't, like, retroactively, like, you don't really feel that stuff when you're reading Arlong Park, you know? But I think Aizen's, like, a really, really cool villain. Like, he's, I don't know, like, he just had such a presence in the story. I think it's very hard to replicate the effect that Aizen had on Bleach with even any One Piece villain. Now, can you argue that Aizen was kind of, like, at a certain point, I know every little thing, every little detail I've had, even this random shit planned out, etc., like, you were always inside my whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can argue that past a certain point, Aizen just started entering, like, kind of, meme territory. I think you can start arguing that. And you can argue that Aizen, like, his character wasn't that fleshed out. But just as a villain, like, what I wanted out of a villain throughout the story, I think Aizen definitely provided that for the most part really well. Mudassir Muhammad says, Luffy will carry positive dreams of every major opponent on his shoulders. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that we've seen throughout the series. Things that a lot of the, like, you know, Crocodile wants to be Pirate King, Luffy will be Pirate King. Doflamingo wants to overthrow the Celestial Dragons, Luffy will probably do that. Big Mom wants to make it so that all races can live equally, you know, Luffy will do that. Kaido wants a grand death, Luffy will do that, etc., etc. I definitely think that that's a really, really great, really, really great theory, and I think that's got a lot of possibilities, and I think that it's very likely in the grand scheme of things that, you know, a lot of these villains, they have these goals, but for the wrong reasons or the wrong vision for it, and then Luffy's going to inadvertently accomplish all of these, but, like, with a more pure heart. I like that a lot. JPress P says, from Brago stream, who is sexier, Shanks or Mihawk? Also, who is your top 5 sexiest One Piece dudes? I saw the screenshot of this because it was going around Twitter. It's just like, is this what Brago streams are like? Who is sexier, Shanks or Mihawk? Um, they just have like different styles, right? Because like Mihawk's got this like count, this weird, not weird, like how do I say this? Mihawk's design is more slick, right? Like it's more slick, it stands out more, etc. But Shanks with the scar and stuff, I don't know. Like it probably depends on what people value, right? And then I'm not going to answer the rest of that question because I think that's probably already enough for you guys. That's probably already enough. Alright, time to load up normal chat. Oh, Joy Girl's here. I feel like people have been coming in. Like JD came in. Joy Girl's here. Joy Girl's friend. Joy Girl's saying, "Hey, Chinho Wong. Yeah, I know you're friends with these people because you steal them to your stream. That's okay though." We got up in normal chats. The Morge will raid? What does that mean? Why is my computer so slow? I need a new computer. Chat, it's taking so long to load. Where are we at? Where are we at? Oh my god, I'm so far behind. How does this happen? I take too long to answer questions. I need to speed it up. That's what I've decided. Oh my god. Alright, let's try this. Keenan says, if the inherited wills theory is true, then do you think the Straws will learn in the story that they'll have to destroy... Oh, no more super chats, by the way. Please, no more super chats because I'm going to wrap up the stream pretty soon. No more super chats. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. If the inherited wills theory is true, when do you think the Straw Hats will learn in the story that they'll have to destroy the Red Line? After Wano, after Elbaf, at Laugh Tale, or when they get to Reverse Mountain? I think at Laugh Tale, in my opinion. I think that'll be the final piece. Vivek says, do you think the Gorosei are on those ships coming to Wano? I think Blackbeard will strike Alabasta for plutonium, for Pluton, where we get Shanks versus Blackbeard. Your thoughts? I do think we get Shanks versus Blackbeard. I think it is very possible that Blackbeard strikes Alabasta for Pluton, but I also think it's very possible that, like, the world government gets to Pluton first. So I don't know. Angel says, Sandman translated. Kuina is Zoro's oldest friend. Yeah, so here's what happened a little bit. I wasn't 100% sure. It felt, reading it, like it was referencing Kuina. But I told you, I got spoiled on that last chapter, right? Because people... If you watch the chapter review, I kind of explained it. I got spoiled on that last chapter. So I did read the spoilers. Funnily enough, in the spoilers, they sometimes get some stuff wrong. In the spoilers, towards the end, they were like... they said that the implication is that it might be the same person who Zoro is referring to here. So I already had that in my mind reading the thing. I was like, okay, so it's up in the air, but these translators seem to think that it might be the same person. So when I read it, I was like, I was going in with that presumption or that bias. And so I read it and I was like, okay, it seems like it could be Kuina, but those other guys said that it might be Luffy, and it does feel like it could be Luffy as well. So I wanted to talk a little bit about like the possibility that it's Luffy because it's the one that I preferred. Because I was like, oh, that would be really nice if it is Luffy. So I kind of just, my own bias of what I wanted it to be, and the pre-framing of the spoilers that, oh, it's referring to, possibly referring to the same person, meaning Luffy. Aras says, Onimaru for Straw Hat. That way Chopper still has to struggle with his image as the pet. That'd be funny. But I don't think Onimaru would join. I wonder if Chopper gets a real bounty this arc. I wonder if he earns it. Pirate King Juice says, Conqueror coding, jet pistol to the face, knock out every admiral one shot. I don't think that would happen. I personally don't think they would do that. I don't think it would have that effect. Mr. Helmauger says, do you think Akainu will come to Wano? Since so much emphasis is put on Wano and how much of an opportunity this is, I don't see where else he would be during the climax of the New Age. Look, if Akainu comes to Wano, it's essentially we're at Marineford 2.0, right? Because at that point, it's like the Fleet Admiral himself showed up with, like, other admirals, most likely. Then it's just Marineford. Like, what's the difference at that point? They're missing the Shichibukai, but they'll have the SSG, who they seem to view as equal. So it's like they literally just declared war. They sent their entire Marine force, you know? And that, the way Marineford was built up, that felt like a very rare instance. That, there was a lot of time spent showing the accumulation, or not the accumulation, you know, the arrival, the convergence of all of the Marine forces all at once, right? Coming from all corners of the world, etc. So if they're doing that again, I feel like there'd be just more to it. Like, this feels more like just doing it on a whim. Like, okay, let's seize Wano if we have the opportunity. Andrew says, do you think Lunarians are connected to God Valley? Yes, because these things are being included in the same arc. They're kind of coming together. You know. It's kind of all just, like, coming together in the same arc. And, alright, we're at the last of the stuff. Alright. Cronin says no more super chat. Thanks, Cronin. Hi, Tom. Thank you. Appreciate it. We almost done. Okay. Mahmouda Musa says, do you think it's possible to write a good villain who has no good motivation? Is there a way to write Hordy so people will like him as a villain? I mean, Hordy does technically have a motivation. It's just that it's deliberately based in very shallow reasons, right? That's like the point of the villain. But you know, even though that was the point of the villain, it didn't lead to a very compelling villain. So you can have that be the point, you can have it be deliberate, but still not have something very effective or compelling. A villain with no good motivations. I'm trying to think, because I'm sure that that's been done multiple times before. I mean, it's hard to say, like, what do you call no good motivations? Because, like, at the end of the day, it has to be, like, something like, you know, Sauron wants power or something like that. Like, there's always some shit. Like, if you mean, like, something not very complex and generic, like, oh, I want power, then yeah, I think a lot of classical villains they fall in that mold. But, literally nothing, I think that's really difficult. Thomas Kaz says, Usopp's new bounty will be 500 mil like Dressrosa. I saw some theories on how the bounties are going to follow a certain pattern. Usopp would have to do a lot. Usopp would have to really, really, really do a lot. Like, really, really, really do a lot. Pedro Lewis's Joker, it's like, yeah, but even the Joker, his motivation is causing chaos, causing, you know, fucking with Batman, which is, like, in its own way, it's like a shallow motivation, but, like, the way that, like, kind of defines his character makes it something a very interesting motivation because it stands out from so many other villains in that regard. I think, like, even the Joker has an interesting motivation, right? It's just not the same. Yeah, I think it's really hard to write a villain without, like, a really... You need a motivation. You just need a... It's hard to write characters... It's hard to write characters without motivations, period, right? Like, you just write them, they want to do something, or they're aiming to do something, etc., right? Yeah, I can't think of one. Alright. I'm going to call it on this stream, I think. Caramelized Guy, or this moment, sorry, I'm a little out of it. Caramelized Guy says, how much did you buy that chair, Morge? It came as a set from IKEA. So, that should tell you everything you need to know. Oh, Miss Super Chat. Thoughts on Dune 2021? You know, I was on, this is the last question I'll answer. This is by Mui Toki. Dune, I watched it, not the full thing, because I watched it on Thanksgiving. I was in my hometown, was at my family's place, and after dinner, it was like, we gotta watch a movie. My sister was pushing Dune, so, put Dune on, and we didn't finish it, because my parents were sleepy, and they wanted to go to sleep. So, I got, I think, 55 minutes of the way through. Thoughts on Dune is that, and I can't give a good take on it because I haven't seen the full thing. All right, I have read the book, so I know the plot of it. I know the plot of it, and I know where they basically stopped in the story, roughly speaking. And I kind of know, I have a guess at what the halfway mark will be, essentially, where they'll end part one of the movie. But I do want to finish the movie. I'll say this, it's probably the most artistically done blockbuster in recent memory in a long, long, long time. A lot of what they did, like, visually, stylistically, sound, etc. Like, you can tell, right? You understand it's a very artistic attempt at a blockbuster. And I think they did that really, really, really well. I think that carries an otherwise sloppy script, like really sloppy script. But I think it's not, like, I think they handed it to Denis Villeneuve. Sorry for pronouncing his name wrong. And he fixed the shit out of that movie. Otherwise, you would have been looking at another, like, really generic Hollywood blockbuster if that dude was not directing it. He took, like, what seems to me, like, I'm following along with, like, a really, really sloppy script and just, like, turned it into something where the focus is on, you know, the experience, like, the cinematic experience of, like, taking in everything that's, you know, being presented on screen. But I have not seen the rest of the movie, so maybe, I don't know, the writing surprises. I don't know. I think a lot of the ways that they tried to... I don't want to get... It's not even fair. It's not even fair for me to give my take on it because I didn't see the full movie, right? I'm not going to give my full... once I finish it, how about I give my full take? But I liked it, for the record. Like, I'm not trying to be critical just to be critical. That was just my take. I think, like, what I'm saying, I suppose, is that the direction so heavily outweighed everything else that it made it a good movie in my eyes. And I was excited to finish it. Just things got in the way, it didn't really get to, but I'm definitely going to finish it at some point. And yeah, I mean, I was really impressed. I didn't expect, like, you know, people were singing the praises of Dune. I didn't expect that, like, you know, a Hollywood-made movie blockbuster in today's day and age would be, you know, as artistically directed as this one was. So I'm happy with it. I hope it sparks a new trend, but it's unlikely. And yeah, that's all I really have to say after watching close to 1 hour of Dune. That's basically it. But I will, like, maintain that, look, if he was not directing it, I think there's nothing negative you can say about Denis Villeneuve after this. Like, it's nothing, like, he's doing the absolute best he can with what he's given, I think, with Dune. But I think if you took him away, then suddenly it's just, like, not that good, in my opinion. But that's not the point, right? Because that's not really how you view things. The director clearly elevated it to something that's, like, really, really good, in my opinion. So, we'll see. Yeah, that's all for this stream. Video coming out tomorrow on Brook. I think it's actually an interesting video. I urge you all to watch. That's pretty much all I got to say.